listening to I Am Refocused Radio with your host, Shamaya Reed. This show is designed to inspire you to live your purpose and regain your focus. And now, here's your host, Shamaya Reed.
Hey, welcome to I Am Refocused Radio. We are here once again, and man, you know what time it is. Anytime we have a show, we have an amazing guest for y'all today. Today, we're going to talk to our guest, Bryan Kramer. He is going to give us some insight on today's topic, being human is your best competitive advantage. And we're going to learn a little bit about him and his business, and also all the amazing things that he's done in his career. So first and foremost, I want to welcome you, Bryan, to the show. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for the kind intro.
Yes, sir. And we'll start out as talking about your business, CEO of H2H Companies, your leading executive coaching firm in this industry. Tell us a little bit about how you got started.
Well, I started. I actually got a degree in what I did, which was marketing, and then marketing and communications. And then I went and worked for agencies, and my job was to help with transformation, the digital and eventually social transformation of, taking traditional agencies and transforming them into digital agencies. And I did that pretty much my whole career up until starting my own agency in 2001, 2002. And then we created our own agency that also transformed over 22 plus years, that created campaigns and demand gen, all kinds of social campaigns. We reinvented ourselves multiple times to keep up with, new ways of working, and ended up working with great clients like Netflix and Cisco and MasterCard. And, we're 30 people, $30 million agency, and created a lot of really cool stuff. So my whole career was spent doing that until I burned out. I was speaking. I was also speaking on the road and keynoting for traveling 200 days a year. So eventually I pivoted my career into executive coaching, which is kind of a long story. But the short story is that I ended up, we ended up exiting the agency, and I ended up doing now what I love doing. I really do wake up every day just loving what I do, which is coaching executives and entrepreneurs in their own growth without burning out. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and where I started and how I got through the journey.
Forbes has also given you the title Zen Master to digital marketers. You are also a Forbes contributor. And like you said, you wake up every day passionate about what you're doing. So that leads into today's topic that we will discuss with you. When it comes to being human is your competitive advantage, kind of explain to our audience, what does that mean?
Right now, we're facing this really interesting dilemma of AI and virtual reality and all kinds of technology that's come to the forefront. Even more so, this all shifted when social media first came out, when everybody was trying to figure out how to have communication globally on this, social front. And, when Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, all the social platforms really started coming out, it broke down the barriers between companies and customers or individuals, and the geofences really got brought down because everybody had a voice, whether you liked it or not. And I think it's the same today. That the challenge is really creating more human human moments, human touch points, and today we're faced with that even more. I think it's about to get worse. And the only way that we're going to stand out is being more human, not less. And so, it's super important for us to create, take a step back, look at all of our automation, all of our technology, and look at it and say, how do we create more human touch points, not less?
When you look at the opportunities people like yourself are enabled to do to kind of not just educate people, but to inspire them to think differently on this situation, how is it important for people to really to take it from a simple approach and not overthink what you're saying?
Well, we make things complex. So that's just a human trait that we tend to do. And we use acronyms and we say things and speak that makes things more misunderstood or harder to understand. And we do it without thinking about it. Like, especially when you're at a company and you've got your own speak internally, and all of a sudden now the customer doesn't understand what it is that you actually do, because you've made it so complex that it's hard to understand. So simplicity is just one of those things, and it almost sounds, and I don't mean this to be ironic, but it sounds so simple to make things easier to understand. But you have to actually acknowledge it. You have to take a step back and look at it and say, is that really something? If I were, the potential customer or client, would I really understand how to work with them or what to do? And if not, I mean, you can easily ask somebody too, like, what does that mean to you? And 9 times out of 10, they're not going to get it, because we just speak a totally different language than what we should be doing. So I think that's part of it. The other part is making it easy to work with you. If you were to look at a company that's it's kind of low hanging fruit, no pun intended, but Apple, is pretty simple when you look at the brand, and you can count on 2 hands what products they have. Most people could tell you all the products that they have, and it's easy to do business with them. It's easy to get on, easy to get the product, unless they're just bringing a new product out. But it's easy to order and easy to get customer service. So they've really created somewhat, whether you're an Apple fan or not, they've created a simplistic brand. And you could point to them as somebody that has surrounded their entire brand around that modality. So, really take a step back and say, how simple is my brand? How easy is it to understand? And how easy is it for people to do business with us?
Once again, we're talking to our guest today, Bryan, and you can go visit his website. It's bryankramer.com. We're talking about today's topic, being human as a competitive advantage. And a follow-up question will be, you mentioned AI. It's a very popular thing right now. People are still learning. It's a big learning curve if you're not an expert. So when it comes to business leaders using AI, but still trying to find that balance of having more of a human touch, how can they strike a balance between using technology and humanity to create a competitive advantage?
Yeah, well, I mean, the biggest thing to creating a competitive advantage is to stand out as the most human brand. And to do that, we covered the first one, which was simplicity. The other 2 is empathy and imperfection. Empathy might look like customer service. Empathy might look like, you could argue that Amazon is a behemoth of a brand, and yet somehow they have created empathy with their customer through the ability to take back almost every product without having to argue with them. And they made it easy for customers to take back that product. Very simple way of having customer service. So that's empathy. Imperfection is not being perfect all the time, which there is no such thing as perfection. But at the same time, we're trying to look perfect. When you look at Instagram, for instance,
yeah.
And brands really try to have that perfect response, the perfect way of being with others. And yet it goes against the grain, because that's not what we look for in other human beings. So why would we look for that in a company? We want them to own things when they've done things wrong. We want them to see things, as we would. And, you might point to Facebook, who's the opposite of all 3: simplicity, empathy, and imperfection. That they don't really hold true to that. They're just big enough that they can get by, but will it hold in the long game? I don't think it will. I think it's going to end up hurting, and that's why they're trying to find other ways to pivot out of being a social network. So, that's how you apply and stand out as the most human brand, is through simplicity, empathy, and imperfection.
And with that said, a topic that's been very popular for the past few years is culture and culture in the workplace. When it comes to leaders trying to foster a culture that encourages their employees to bring their authentic selves to work, what is a good, healthy approach in tackling that?
The healthy approach is keeping your side of the street clean, and when I say that, I mean do what's right, not what's needed, but do what's right. When you keep your side of the street clean as a CEO or an executive, which is normally where people are looking towards leadership, they're looking at how you're modeling the behavior that you intend for the rest of the organization. So I think keeping your side of the street clean, doing the right thing, not mistreating people, not buying into politics, not buying into drama, not buying into anger, not buying into any of those modalities that creates frustration and friction. Keep your side of the street clean and always, play the long game with that in mind. And I'd say the second thing is that the killer of all relationships is assumption. Assumptions that we have for others is not a healthy way of being. And so clear the assumption. Look at the assumptions, write out a list of assumptions that you have, whether it's with another teammate or even a boss or with a project, with anything that you have, and clear the assumptions. Get the facts out of the assumption and really clear it with the other person or with the team. And once you can do that, I think that's where alignment is built. Alignment is built out of clearing assumptions, and it's a much healthier way of building a company.
Once again, people can go visit your website, bryankramer.com. And right now we're talking about the topic of being human as a competitive advantage. Leads up to my next question. When it comes to storytelling, I mean, you yourself know everything about that. You've been on many different stages and done many different presentations, and you have interviewed some amazing, influential people. How important is storytelling and creating that human touch?
Well, storytelling goes back to the beginning of time, to hieroglyphs. It's almost, you can't really get away from storytelling as being the centerpiece for what makes us turn our heads and get wowed by something, by looking at something and saying, oh my gosh, that's I want to be a part of that. Storytelling motivates us to create more connection with the individual who's telling the story. And so, there's a, when I gave my TED talk, it was something that I had to work through even more so. Even though I'd been speaking for a while, it wasn't something I was used to in terms of giving a talk within it's up to 20 minutes, I believe. But my talk was about 17 minutes. And it was hard. It was hard telling a story in that amount of time and having it hit, every level of emotion and get the point across. And an idea, which I love about TED, is that it's one idea worth having, worth changing, worth sharing. And that's why I wrote my second book, Shareology: How Sharing Powers the Human Economy. And I explored that through the TED Talk in helping everybody to understand that sharing really does power our entire economy. It powers ourselves and our teams and everybody forward. And to share, you have to understand storytelling. You have to understand the ups and the downs. I would recommend looking at TED Talks and spotting the story arc. What is the arc to the story? How did it begin? What was the middle and what was the end? How did you feel at different points of it? Was it sharp increases? Was there humor? Was there drop-offs? Where was the arc and how did it play out? If you can really start to look at the arc of what makes a story, you will become a better storyteller.
People always have their source of inspiration from whatever platform they choose. But like a lot of people say on shows, it's one thing to be inspired by something that you heard or you read, but it's another thing to take action. And for those who might be overwhelmed in what their first step should be, based on your experience, what's a good step one for a person who wants to develop this better skill set?
I think the practice is in powerful questions, and being relentless in realizing that the question you're about to ask is not going to get the answer right away. It's the question behind the question behind the question behind the question. Oftentimes it gets you the answer. So be relentless in asking not just why, but what's the question behind the why, and how deep can you go? Get really deep with people and understanding that. The second thing I think is building, a fundamental skill of listening. There's 3 different levels of listening. The first level is listening, but not really listening. The second level is listening, but you're waiting for it to be your turn. And the third level is listening, but you're totally focused in on what the other person is saying without thinking about what you're going to say next. When we can all be in that third level, it's when you get the most powerful results. And that skill, that's the skill, that's the mother of all skills. If you want to build a skill, build that third level listening.
You have many awards. I mean, people can go to your website, bryankramer.com, and see what you've been able to achieve. So when it comes to building your legacy, your path, did you create systems throughout your journey that helped you achieve those with your team? Or was it just, we just take it one day at a time, see what's working, and readjust as we go?
Oh my gosh, systems, structure, and process. I was relentless, and I mean relentless. And so was Courtney, my wife, who she and I own the agency together. We were relentless with it. If there was a process, we created it to be had. And so, yes, absolutely, 100%, hands down. Process was like at the epicenter of everything that we did. And I believe that while the only way you can truly be creative out of the box is to put a process so that everybody can live in a box, to know where they stand in the process, so that they could be free with the creative process.
And this brings everything full circle with you being the CEO of H2H Companies and executive coaching company. When you are working with your clients, and these are people who are in charge and have to be stewards of great platforms, so it's a great responsibility. How do you kind of peek into their systems and find ways that you can fine tune it to help them grow?
Well, I mean, as myself, the way that I help others is through a coaching modality and creating a way for people to see their blind spots. We all have them, and it's not something that and I have it too. I think that we all need to have somebody that walks alongside us and can help us see the things that we're not able to see, so that we can grow and do it without burning out. We know what we need to do innately, but we need it drawn out of us. And sometimes asking the right questions can help us see the things we can't, but we have to see it for ourselves. And having somebody to help there in an unbiased way to do that is, I think, a really powerful way. I had somebody do that for me, and now I love doing that with others. And so that's what I do. I help people see things that they may not otherwise see, that helps to grow them faster and to see ways of building on top of what they already have, so that they can get more of what they want, which shows up in a lot of different ways. It shows up as more time. It shows up more time with their family. It could show up with more revenue. It could show up with more an increase in their job role. I mean, it's just endless what's possible. It's just a matter of figuring out what's going to bring you the most joy.
A current theme in this month's guests on our show is, a lot of our guests touch on happiness and joy, and how our attitude can affect how we operate and flow in life. For you personally, how did you manage that part of your life, so that way you're able to enable your team to be efficient, but also go to the next level?
Going to the next level is sometimes I think going slower. It's not the obvious answer, but you have to take a step back in order to take a step forward. And I think that that's what I try to do is go slower to go faster. Everybody's having to create a lot to keep up with these days, and usually that's how do I do everything in a day, fit everything I want to in a day, and then I don't have time for myself. I don't have time to be strategic, or I don't have time to be to think about the long term, the long plan. And so really, for me and for others, I think it's taking a step back, slowing down, forcing us to slow down so that we can see those things and then move forward.
And for the most part, most people understand that you can't have success without failure. So how have you looked at your failure to motivate you to not just learn from it, but to use it to your advantage?
Oh my God. Well, I mean, I burned out incredibly. I burned out at the highest level of burnout, and trying to run an agency, traveling 200 days a year, and having young kids at home who I missed out on a lot of different things. And I ended up, eating my way through every country because the food was so good, and becoming obese. I had gotten so obese that I got type 2 diabetes. And it all led to a crash and burn, just doing too much. On the outside looking in, it was incredible because they just saw me traveling and on stages and on TED and running a company and doing well. But on the inside, I was dying a slow death. And so taking a step back, one day my 11-year-old son said, "Dad, we miss you." Sat me down and said, you're not healthy. You're not sticking around too long if you keep going at this pace, which was incredible for him to say. And I listened to him, and I said to my wife, "I'm done. I've got to, not with us, but I've got to take a break and figure out what all this means to me." So over the next 6 months, we exited the agency, and I exited speaking for a year. And I took a year off. I lost diabetes. I don't have it anymore. At least it's not showing up as on my blood tests. And I lost over 85 pounds. And I figured out what I wanted to do and how I wanted to contribute at a deeper level in this world. And that's how it informed me, was taking a step back, again, going slower to go faster. And now I'm doing better than I've ever done. So I believe that if I can do it, anyone can do it.
Man, it's great words. I mean, you make it look easy, but I know it's the opposite, man. So once again, talking to our guest, Bryan Kramer, you go to his website, bryankramer.com. Last thing, call to action. CEOs out there, business professionals out there who are, ready and they're ready to work with you, with your coaching, one-on-one, highly personalized service. How can they best check out your website before they make that jump to make a connection with you?
The biggest way is just write a list of the unnegotiables, the things that really you want more of, and take a look at them and think, what's really important to me in this world, and really brainstorm it out. Like, throw everything out on that list and start figuring out what matters the most. Once you have that and perhaps a non-negotiable list of things that you just know you want more of, even if you're mired in a lot and you just don't, it might be like just more time or more vacation or more time with your spouse, or maybe you just want that a bonus for the hard work you're doing, or whatever it is, health. It could be anything. Write it all down, and once you have that, then I'd say it's time to go get a coach, a mentor, or somebody that can help you get there, that can help you see what's preventing you from getting that. That's going to be the step in between.
Once again, I want to say thanks to Bryan Kramer for talking to us on I Am Refocused Radio today. We've been talking about the topic being human as a competitive advantage. Once again, go visit his website, bryankramer.com, for more information. And to contact him, you can do right there on the website. Bryan, any call to action for our audience? And is there a better way you would want someone to contact you, like maybe email or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you go to bryankramer.com, or you can email me, brian@bryankramer.com. Bryan with a Y, Kramer with a K. Everything's on my website. All my social media is on there. A newsletter. If you hit, in true human to human style, if you hit reply, I'll reply back. And that's where I love to communicate. You can hit me up on any social channel as well.
Once again, I want to say thank you, Bryan, for your time.
Thank you.